Yes, thank you, Joy. Bienvenidos a todos. Thank you all who are spending your Saturday afternoon with us. Um, yeah, welcome to Moving Structures, Reclaiming Stories in Art and Writing. Um, we wanted to center this specific discussion on how writing and art are essential in how we can reclaim and honor our stories and our work. And also thinking about how this way of working can support the decolonizing of practices in both academic and non-academic projects. And you'll see throughout our conversations of our current works right now, um, of how that plays a very like the vital pillar in the way we work. And I will encourage you to get a piece of paper if you can, a pen, pencil, because we'll be doing, Maria will introduce us into or guide us through a meditation and then have us sort of do a little free write afterwards. So if you have a pen and paper, pencil, paper around you, that would be where, or if you want to use your computer, that's fine as well too. Save the trees, man. And yeah, so with that said, I would like to start us off with a quote here. And this is by Audra Simpson. And the quote is: structures move through time and place. And if you pay close attention, you can actually see structural activity. And I'll go ahead and write that in the chat as Maria gets ready to guide us through.
Thank you, Miranda. Gracias a todos por estar hoy aquí con nosotros. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. I So today we're going to the structure of today's conversation. Starts off with a little bit of a guided meditation that we're going to call today a body scan. It's a body and a spatial scan, and we want to think about a process a little bit, right? And we want to invite you to think about your process, your creative process. For those of you who have not done this before, a body scan is a meditative experience where we're rotating consciousness throughout the body and the space we're in. So I'm going to give you a few prompts to help guide you. Just follow, if you can, my voice in the prompts. And with this body scan, what we're looking for is to try to think about different ways to approach and challenge the idea of a body. Like, what constitutes the body? What are the limits? And how does the body occupy space? And what else is occupying that space with us, right? For this part, you can leave your camera on, or if you choose to, you can turn it off. I will be turning mine off, and Miranda's going to keep hers on. You can choose a level of visibility you're comfortable with, basically. And after turning your camera off, if that's what you decide to do, find yourself a comfortable position. That can be laying down somewhere that's comfortable for you, or if you prefer, you can sit on a chair. Um, but if you're sitting down, I recommend that you try to keep your feet flat on the ground. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera off right now, and we'll get started. Close your eyes if you're able to. We're going to bring our focus to our breath. As you're breathing in and out, give yourself permission not to judge yourself. There is no right way of feeling in this space. It's only how you and your body feels. As we continue to breathe in and out, we're going to bring our awareness to our breath, noticing how our breath feels the moment it comes into our bodies. Are you breathing in through your mouth or through your nose? How is your breath moving through your chest? Is it making the top part of your abdomen fall down or your chest come up? How are you breathing out? Through your nose, through your mouth?
Remember, we're not changing anything yet. We're just breathing. As we continue to breathe, bring your awareness to the air. Does it feel warm, fresh? What smells come with it? As we take in another breath, let's bring our awareness to the sounds coming with the air. If you're in a room, what sounds are moving in it? If you're wearing headphones, are there any sounds coming in through them? Are there sounds coming in from outside the room? How are they affecting the sounds inside? Which ones are louder? As we take another breath, we're going to bring our awareness back to our breath. And with the next breath in, we're going to move that awareness through our left shoulder, down our arms, all the way to our little finger, the left little finger. And as we keep breathing, we're going to slowly move this awareness through the rest of your fingers, one by one, checking in with them. How are they feeling? Are they holding any tension? Are they cold? With the next breath, we're going to push this awareness all the way through the back of our arms, across our chest, and to the right shoulder. With the next breath, we're going to push that awareness again down our right arm and all the way down to your right pinky finger. As we continue to breathe in and out, we're going to circulate this awareness through every finger, middle finger, index, and the thumb. And with the next breath in, we're going to push that awareness back up through the back of our arm, through our right shoulder, and to the middle of our chest. We're going to carry another breath down our chest, our abdomen, noticing how our body feels, where we're holding tension. And we're going to push the next inhale and feel it pushing down our right leg, the front of your right leg, your thighs, the front of your knee, your calves, your ankles, and all the way to your big toe. We're going to continue bringing our awareness to a circular breath that moves from toe to toe, all the way to your little toe. And on the next breath, we're going to carry that breath through the sole of our feet, all the way to the back of our calves, the back of our knees, the back of our thighs, your sits bone, your hips. And we're going to cross that awareness with the next breath over to the left side of your hips. And we're going to bring that down the left leg, our thighs, the front of our knees, and we're going to carry that breath through the bottom part of our legs and our ankles, all the way to the left big toe. And circulating that awareness as we circulate that breath in and out, we're going to move from toe to toe, all the way to your pinky toe. Noticing at the same time how our foot feels, the top of our feet, how it's connected to our toes. And we're going to carry that awareness back down through the sole of our feet, the back of our calves, the back of our knees, the back of our legs, our hips. And then this next part, we're not going to judge our body. As we continue to breathe, we're just going to observe where we're holding tension as we circulate a breath up our lower back, and then each section we're going to go back up each vertebrae all the way to our shoulder blades. We're going to think about and notice how we're sitting. Are we slouching? Are we sitting up straight? We're not going to correct it. We're just going to do what feels comfortable to us. If you feel more comfortable correcting your posture, you can do that. But you can also stay how you are. And then being mindful of that tension in our bodies, with the next breath, we're going to move up the back of our neck, our head, the back of our head all the way to the top. As we continue to breathe in and out, we're going to move that awareness down to our ears, down to our jawline, and then back up to the top of the head and down the forehead. As we take another breath in and out, we're going to notice our eyes, and we're going to bring our awareness to every muscle around our eyeballs. Check in with your eyelids. How are they feeling? Are they holding any tension? As we continue to move that breath down our cheeks, feeling if they're holding any tension. Our nose, our lips, and moving with that breath inside of the mouth to the tongue, the gums, the teeth, even the roof of your mouth. Are you holding any tension in these parts of your body? As we continue to circulate that breath and bring our awareness back to our breath, we're going to go ahead and circulate our awareness quickly throughout our bodies. We're going to go from our breath to our chest, to our hip, to our legs, noticing what parts of our body are touching the ground or the bed or the couch. How are we feeling in those areas? Are they warm? Are they tense? Are they relaxed? And as we bring that awareness back through the back of our body, our back, our head, back to our breath, we're going to take a few breaths and bring our awareness back to what that air is bringing in, and the sounds. How is our body situated? Are we making sounds? Are we moving? Are we feeling uncomfortable? Are we part of those sounds? Are we breathing loud? How is that breath a part of the sounds? As we slowly start to move our toes and our fingers, and we're going to continue to think about the sounds as we open our eyes and bring our awareness back.
And we're going to come back with this feeling. And we would like to invite you to reflect on this feeling for a few minutes through a short free write. So you can go ahead and take the next 5 minutes to write about your body. What parts of your body felt heavy or tense during this guided meditation, or moved? Whatever you notice, feel free to write a few words or sentences, whatever your mind compels you to do. So we're going to go ahead and time this for 5 minutes.
And as some of you guys are, or some of you all are finishing up some last minute thoughts, again, like Maria said, feel free to use the chat. I see some of us are already doing so, or, unmute your mics. And yeah, we would love to hear what you experienced, what felt good, what didn't feel good.
When I was breathing, I was, I when I wrote it down, I was like when I thought of a part of my body, it was kind of like my brain was sending a little electrical pulse, and it tingled with acknowledgement. Like I felt like my thigh, like ooh. But also, it's kind of funny because my left foot is a little swollen, so it was like, oh, thinking of my thigh, and then left foot, right, and then oh, calf, left foot, because it's still kind of throbbing and interrupting me.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know, and I was telling Maria this, like, this meditation, uh I wrote down hands feel like they were holding on for dear life. Like, and I think it was part of like this whole, year anniversary of the pandemic, of just stress in life, just kind of like transferred into this whole physical stress for me. And that's been something that I've been trying to navigate, but I don't know how, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, for me, so personally, I have a difficult time being still with my mind and my body. They tend to want to go everywhere all the time. So I appreciated the space and the guidance to just be, and also appreciated how we were guided gently and invited to do these things, right? Instead of this is what it should be. It was more of a guidance of how is it for you. And doing this work, I really appreciate that because I've experienced the opposite when dealing with somatic work. And then yeah, it brought awareness to like there's pain in my rib cage that I wasn't even aware of until I took a moment to just be and check in and scan through. So it was a nice experience for me.
I realized as I was doing it that I don't always think about my body very much. And when I do, it's not always in the most kind or generous way. So I was just sitting there and almost like, just like, wow, my body does a lot of amazing stuff. Like it carries me everywhere, and it's done that since I was literally born, since before I was born, and I was just like tripping out a little bit in a really good way. But yeah, so it was nice to be like, I got to remember this and think about my body and maybe different patterns that I'm prone to do, and I'm sure many other people are too.
I'm also really enjoying the comments that I see in the chat, and this kind of I feel like there's a thread through these comments of um, forgetting about parts of our body, right? Or just being disconnected, spatially, feeling like we are always just one walking, but um, never really aware, right, of how even parts of our body are positioned, right, and in relation to what.
Um, yeah, I do too. And I'm like reading the comments too. I'm like super horrible at that. Uh, this whole idea of like the body, and then I forgot who commented. I think there was a couple of them of like that. It was just nice to be like how that's how we started this thing, and it brings me to this idea of like community, right? Of when you have a group of people who barely know each other, or like from all different parts of the world, how do we stay connected with each other as much as we are connected with ourselves? Um, and I think that that reminds me of like how I started this, or like how I start my creative processes with my dancers, and just people that I collaborate with, especially with this work that you all will see in a minute. um you know I wasn't sure of what this work was going to be or what it was going to speak on or anything like that. I just knew that I had two dancers and like three bodies in one room, and what do you do with that? How do you speak on something with your body? And I remember sharing with them this poem that really just struck a chord with me. And maybe it's because this was at the beginning of the pandemic, where we had to, sit with ourselves, right? Sit with the world, and like nothing but have your eyes wide open 24/7 to everything, from like the big to the small, that's going on. And the fact that, our farm workers, both documented and undocumented, were now considered essential when they've been here the whole entire time. They're providing for you and still being treated in such a way that is it's unimaginable, right? And we're still seeing it today. Like, oh, you would think that they were shown in a different light during the pandemic, and so let's make some policy changes. Let's rethink how we are treating these human beings. And really, it's I don't I mean, I want to be hopeful, but I also don't think that we're going to see such drastic changes in like the next 5 years. This is going to take time. And so this poem that, I shared with my cast, I had them, we all watched this poem, and I can put it at the end of the chat. um and I had we it was heavy, and so I had them free write for about like 5 minutes, right? And not that I expected them to share with me their perceptions or their thoughts on the poem. However, I felt the need that I had to do it for them, so that way they understood where I was coming from and where I was at this point in my life. And um we started talking about this idea of living in America, living in this, westernized world, embedded in white supremacy, how much we have slowly erased parts of ourselves and slowly assimilated to what is being accepted, what is being, a human being. And I didn't realize that until this past year. And it just bothered me so much of, and I was thinking about this earlier, of how can I start reclaiming that? How do I be grounded in who I am after all these years? Do I have the right to be? Um, and that is where sort of this whole process of digging back into ourselves and where we come from. Even though, me and my dancers were not immigrants, we did not experience this journey of migrating to different parts, Chicago, Miami, back in the valley, to work and provide for not only the whole world but ourselves and our families. um, and I feel like that process started making me think of how this sort of practice is a way to decolonize the way, at least for me, the way I make work and the way I move and the way I dance and the way I share these tools for people to use in a sort of healing way, in a sort of transformational change. It's not just about what we do in the studio, but how do we take this stuff and use it out in the world? Because they're so, we can't just like do one thing and leave it at the door when we enter another world. It has to be a symbiotic relationship with each other. um Sorry, I just like went on a total rant. uh but I think with that, I would like to I think this is a good time to show you the work and kind of what I'm talking about, so you can like kind of put my words together with the with the video. So I'm just gonna go ahead and share my screen with you guys. And I think Maria had said if it is too loud, I think the earphones, did you say? or if people are using earbuds.
Yeah, if you're using earbuds, just be mindful of the videos that we'll show. Just make sure that the sound is not disrupting.
Okay, perfect. And I am sharing my screen now. I hope you can see it. If you don't, let me know.
A la frontera, a la pared, running from the Pacific to the Gulf. A silent cry from those who walk in scorching hot suns by day and below zero temperatures by night, with only a gallon of water and a prayer in their pocket, hoping both will last. A la frontera, a la pared. 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 A la frontera, a la A la frontera, a la pared. Faceless crosses erased from its gleaming surface, replaced with hues of red, white, and blue. 55 feet of cold concrete that runs from the Pacific to the Gulf. Grateful and a silenced cry from those who used to walk. Hoping their water and prayers will last. Tell us your dishonored names and we will testify.
And we have the amazing composer with us who worked and collaborated with me on this project, Rachel Whelan, who was just so patient and amazing with bringing this idea, this vision to life. And my dancers, Fabi Sanchez and Juan Navarro, they were just brilliant. And yeah.
Yeah, that was wonderful, Miranda. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we're gonna have a chance afterwards to also talk about what I love so much about this video, hopefully, in the Q&A. um, but yeah, I wanted to also switch a little bit to my practice, my art and theory practice, and kind of connect that back to the guided meditation. Um, in my personal work, I started as an academic, as a scholar, and creative writing did not work out for me. So a lot of my scholarly work started out, with art and draws a lot from performance art theory. So I kind of started exploring with art as another way to come to the theory. And then I came to see the multiple ways in which the two are engaged with each other and speak to each other and help me give more meaning to my work, right? So as I know Joy mentioned, I'm a PhD student in gender studies, and I identify as a feminist. So I always like to bring that to my practice. And, in the guided meditation, it was a lot about where you are in relation to your space and the sounds around you and how that breath connects what we do and connects us to the outside, right? And how we occupy that outside. And I always try to be very mindful of that in my practice. What's my positionality to the story I'm trying to tell? Because whether it's in art or in theory, I like to approach my work as, there's always the research or the art question that's driving it, but there's always a story that I'm telling, right? And I think that core central to that is understanding how I'm positioned to that and what are my own limitations. My work is centered on queer diaspora and in particular with Latinx queer diaspora in North America. And the project that I'm going to share with you was is a video essay that was created to be part of this exhibit last summer at Highways in LA before I moved to Maryland. And it was canceled because of COVID, but the exhibit explored my personal story and my family's personal story of displacement, my family's story of displacement, and how that's integrated to a larger story of different types of immigration, right? So originally the exhibit had my grandparents' story migrating from Armenia through multiple countries in Europe to South America, and then my own coming from South America to the US. And so this video essay that you will see as a part was figured into this space as a mediation of that, and as showing the ways in which the cultural context that surrounds my immigration is also related to the violences happening at the time that my grandparents were immigrating to South America. And the name of the exhibit is Now and Then. It is, again, there are very loud sounds towards the end of wind. So if you're wearing headphones, I recommend you turning the volume down a little bit so that it doesn't cause any sort of discomfort. I'm gonna go ahead and share that. Can everyone see? Okay, let me make sure that I shared with the sound on. I forgot to click that. Okay. Sorry. I swear I practiced this. Okay, third time's a charm. And here we go.
The hills are alive with the sound of music.
So thank you, everyone. And I wanted to thank Eric, who is here with us today, and Loya, for being a part of the many trips to get that footage to the desert and being supportive too. But yeah, we wanted to also give everyone the opportunity to comment or ask questions about the work, and also how, if you want to think back on the guided meditation, also, and your process now after seeing that, we are happy to do that as well. So we can take this into both whatever direction everyone feels like going.
So I had a question, if that's okay. Are we doing the Q&A? Cool. So I'll try to be concise. It's not always my best ability. I apologize. But I was thinking during the meditation about a piece of advice I got in a writing class, which is that you need to catch yourself thinking, right? And just not necessarily force anything, but just try to kind of catch yourself thinking about a subject. And then as we were talking about, like, the obstacles and kind of like this oppression, and just trying to, like, having the freedom to do things, or giving yourself permission, it made me think of another piece of advice, which was whatever's wrong with your writing is what's wrong with you. And so it just made me think, like, what, I guess my question would be then, how often do either of you catch yourself thinking about that internalized type of um right, struggle you're facing? Because I feel like it's very easy, but often superficial, to kind of focus on the external right issues that are keeping us down, but how we take that internally and essentially kind of like either self-sabotage, or just are just afraid of expressing ourselves truthfully. If that rambling made sense, I apologize.
No, yeah, thank you so much, Eric, for that question, because that is something that I've been like trying to like unravel and unpack myself. I think the answer to for me currently within like the past like 2 years is all the time. Um and that speaks to whenever I enter the a creative process, I am literally thinking about what is it that I am going to learn from this. And that is whether, like, no matter how heavy or overwhelming or uncomfortable the subject might be, that is where the growth lies for me as a human being and as an artist, which a lot of times people are afraid to confront, to confront those issues, to confront your shadows, the shadows of the world, where we are at this point. But how do we see the light? How do we get there? And those questions of like self-reflection is a big thing for me in my processes, and I don't think I can stray away from that. And I'm not like, maybe I don't have the answer as to what, how that, um like, if I have an answer to how do I move forward from here, I don't know at times. But I think I can't move forward unless I ask myself those questions, whether I know the answers or not. I don't know if that makes sense. um, yeah.
Yeah, something I love that you brought this up today, Eric, because something I've been thinking about today is, sometimes you just, because I do that a lot, right? I hold back because there is fear, right? But I think that I've just been growing more comfortable with accepting the limitations and the aftermath of it, right? Even if I'm not immediately aware of them right then and there. And then when something is brought up, and then just keep retelling the work, whatever that is, you know? Um, yeah. I think that's where I'm at right now.
I wanted to, if I could, make a comment really quickly. This is Joy. So there are some people on this meeting who are not necessarily artists. And so the idea of sort of free write and meditation may have freaked some people out, because that is not part of their process. People read books and they take notes and they write papers and they, you know, have conversations with people. But I personally think that embodied practices are so important, not just as this place where creative work can come from, but in some cases, it is the most powerful way in which we build empathy with others. And that sometimes we get stuck thinking about ourselves as an abstract person, right? And then we kind of project that onto other people. It's like, this is the idea of humanness. This is what, and you know, we in academia we talk a lot about the other, but even making these abstract assumptions about different types of people, and we forget this sort of embodiedness that we all work from within. That's why I particularly liked Miranda and Maria's pieces, because they're both using actions, everyday actions, in order to create a sense of embodied empathy. That's not always, I don't know, not always easy to collect from the news or Facebook or whatever. So I really appreciate this work, because they cause us to, even if it's just for a moment, to slip out of the idea of what our abstract self is, what an abstract person is, what the identity and the identities associated with those abstract people, and to remind us that we are connected through these shared vulnerabilities and relationality that is very, very difficult to remember if you are not, especially right now, moving in and amongst people. So that's sort of why I really wanted them to participate in this project, because their use of soma aesthetics, if you want to call it that, somatic practices, are quite, I think, quite powerful. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, Joy. And I also want to speak, maybe comment on that a little bit, right? Because I think that this is a conversation that Elizabeth, who's here today, and I were having yesterday about, we're reading this book called Fields of Play by Laurel Richardson. And she's a sociologist, and, you know, trying to figure out how to come to the act of writing, right? As a sociologist, right? A person who's been trained in interviewing and in given facts and categories. She turns her practice creatively into creative writing, but in that creative practice, she writes short stories and plays that really focus in on the act of conversation. And I think that's something that we tend to underestimate a lot, and how much it plays a part in our creative process in academia or as thinkers, right? Just how we think about producing knowledge, and how we think about understanding the world around us. And I think that's something that, you know, when we take these moments to slow down and to approach the Zoom space differently, hopefully we can see, you know, feminist possibilities and the potential for building worlds and different kinds of conversations through Zoom that can still help us to keep enacting these different ways of knowing, right? And of thinking about ourselves as abstract, right? And as as physical beings too, as virtual and in all possible ways, avatars, however you want to see yourself in the Zoom square. Uh, but yeah, hopefully that speaks to that a little bit as well.
Yes, no, that's lovely. We are right at about 2:00. So I want to just say a few things so that people feel like they can hop out if they would like to. If people would like to stay on, of course, I'm more than happy to keep the Zoom room open. But thank you so much to all of you. We have people from a lot of different time zones and from a lot of different places, and I am very inspired by that, as I am also, of course, inspired by the work that we saw here today. As I mentioned in the beginning, this is one in a series of discussions, and our next one, I can't help but shamelessly plug my own project, is April the 20th at 12:00 Central Standard Time, when artist scholar Isa Fontbona, who is on the call today, and scholar Camilla Cannon will be presenting. Camilla's here today as well. And their project is Brought to Life, Vulnerability and Transparency in the Surveillance Age. And the images and the video for this are very powerful, as were the video and images for this. So I hope that you can join us. There'll be details on Facebook, Instagram, and my website, which is Jeanette Joy here. And there will also be a recording of this as well that'll get posted on Vimeo. So I hope that y'all have a great rest of the day, and I will just kind of sit here and let the conversation go on until about 2:30, and then I will need to close it out. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing your time today, and Joy for bringing all of us together. We know that to some of you, it might be Easter Saturday, and you might have other things going on. So thank you.
Yes, thank you all so much. It was beautiful to see everybody.
I won't take up too much of y'all's time, but I am curious, and I think Miranda knows, like this is exactly speaks to my artistry and my interests. I mostly work with video dance. That's like my chosen medium. But I'm curious, like we've already spoken to the fact that these two videos give us kinesthetic empathy, right? And hopefully that's a starting point of self-reflection and, okay, this made me feel this way. Now where do I go from here? I'm curious though, for selfish reasons, because I want to know for my own research, right? Like, how do we do that, but now what? Because a lot of times that feeling fades, right? And they're like, well, that was lovely and it made me feel this way. Now I'm going to move on with my life, you know? One. And two, I'm also curious if you guys have ever encountered pushback on your pieces, and how have you navigated through that in hopefully a productive way. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. Uh, I don't have the answer quite yet. However, I think, speaking because I do have that same question myself, and right now I'm like communicating slash starting to work with um the Young Center, who I am a volunteer to be a child advocate for children who are in these detention centers. And not, again, like it may sound like selfish, but no, it is a more of a fact of like, how can I provide for you, right? So yes, I made it work, and now what, right? How, like, I mean, it can change someone's mind, it cannot. But what more physical actions can this cause? Can this do? And I think, not that my work can do it, but I think the way I go into making work, I can try to work with people who are living in these situations, right? So this goes into more of the social realm, the community level, and not to, and this is solely for them. This is not to make another work. However, this is what I can do to provide for you, and to start that healing process. And because that's the only thing that I can think of right now, because yeah, like what, how do I like take that next step in changing something and changing the world? And maybe I can't, but what can I do? What can I control? What can I offer, provide? um yeah, I don't know, Maria, what do you think? I'm interested now.
I'm glad you asked this question because this is something I was thinking about a lot when I was putting the original exhibit together. And it was supposed to have a one night performance component that was supposed to be a ritual. Um, and this is something in retrospect now I'm not sure will happen, where the audience could come closer to names, right? Because I think that's something I find problematic is um I didn't show faces very intentionally in this video, right? Because I struggle with that, right? And representing that. But I do think that there is power um in making um in representing someone and representing that, given that physicality, right? And so that was, I was thinking about that. It wasn't necessarily a problem with the venue to do that. Actually, they were very excited. So I haven't had a lot of pushback. I am thinking, and this is something Miranda and I were thinking about. We were chatting about a month ago when we were talking about this, is how can we make art that makes people feel uncomfortable and ashamed? Because I think that that is something that needs to happen, right? And I'm thinking of performances, where their level of shame just maybe wasn't enough for me. I'm thinking of, I can't remember the name of the people, but who put their naked bodies between the door frame and you're supposed to walk through very tightly and touch their bodies.
Yeah, Marina Abramovich did that.
Yeah, thank you. And it's just, to me, that's just situationally, it's a great work. But for what I'm trying to do right now, I need something that's just makes you feel even more spatially uncomfortable, right? And and I don't know what that would look like, I'm not sure, but I know that folks in the I think most of the people involved in this project are in the Southwest, but I'm terrible with names, and I know that's going to be a professional downfall of mine at some point in academia, but um, but they're doing this series where they make In the Sky visible where ICE detention facilities are throughout the country, and you know around neighborhoods where you might not know that there is a detention center, 20 miles from where you live. And I think art does have that capacity to maybe not change the world, but make some things more visible, right? And I think that um,
Maria, I wanted to hop in really quickly because I like this idea of discomfort, and that I think that performance has this unique capacity, particularly when it takes participatory forms, to like generate this artificial sense of discomfort that at least points to what the actual feeling of discomfort might be. And that there's this great Cuban artist, maybe some of you will know this person, named Tanya Bruguera, and she does some amazing works. One that I'm thinking of in particular is a project that she did in the Turbine Hall at the Tate Modern in London. And what she did is, if any of you have had the chance to go to the Tate Modern, it's this huge industrial manufacturing space, or former factory, and the whole bottom part of it is very open and very tall. And so as people kind of congregate in this covered area before they buy their ticket and they go up into the exhibition spaces. And Tanya had a couple of mounted police officers within that space. And so what she did is she had them, you might say, herd the traffic. So they would kind of just walk, they would be on their horses, which is very huge and sort of domineering if you're a person standing next to a mounted police officer, and would have them like move them, say, you need to move this way, you need to move that way, where they were literally moved around like objects, right? They were doing that to sort of give the sense of like, what would it feel like for someone in a position of authority and power to tell you where to go and you had no control over that. Equally, in not that piece, but in a piece that accompanied that exhibition, she had people queued up to get into the exhibition itself. And so would have people who would be pulled from the line and they would be allowed to go to the front of the line. And some people would be pulled out of the line and be told that they couldn't go into the exhibition at all. This idea of like being in a queue and not having it, like wanting to do something, but not having any control over whether you were going to be able to do that thing or not, or being, identified for whatever reason as not being able to belong in that space. And so for many people, including myself, that is an experience that, many of us would not have, right? And because I am a philosopher, Martha Nussbaum in the 90s wrote about literature having the capacity to help people understand narratives that they had not experienced themselves. And though I think that's very true, we can read books and memoirs and all those things that are quite popular. But the idea of people being together and like being sort of, they have to engage in this action or this moment, and they have no control over it, right? And that is a different type of knowing. It is a different type of cultivation of empathy that literature and research and all these things cannot provide. It is when we are forced to deal with our body as vulnerable, as connected to other bodies in the world, where we're all sort of in the same situation and forced to deal with it. That is a completely different type of learning. And that's why I am so enthralled by performance myself, is because it can create that discomfort that some of us would normally not have. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that also like maybe will lead into, I know you had a question number 2 of like, have you received pushback, right? And I'm trying to think, not that I've had like pushback, but I've had like concerns, but and I don't think I would consider it pushback. I think it would consider, I'm very aware of who doesn't want to have conversations and who doesn't want to have conversations but are willing to sit with this uncomfortability. And I think there's a difference of willingness, right? And then there's this difference of arrogant ignorance, right? Of not wanting to at all, but knowingly choosing that consciously, of not learning and not unlearning, and challenging our own perceptions of what is happening around us and what is going on.
So the question becomes, how do you make the inhospitable hospitable, right? How do you create an experience that people know is going to be unhospitable, but that they choose to engage with that anyway, right? So there's a part of me that says, and this is again a problem in performance, you want to scare people and you want to like do the unexpected and you want to, that's the only way you can jolt them into reality, right? And that's true, and that appeals to some people. But there's also this kind of nurturing that we have to do. It's say, okay, this is a thing that you are not going to like. This is a thing that it's going to make you cringe. It's going to make you feel a little bad, but I am going to hold your hand through. We're going to go down this path together, and it will make you feel things, but we're going to feel these things together. So I think that if we're talking about how do we make these types of embodied works, how do we make them salient? How do we make them resonate? How do we make them create action beyond its sort of temporal construct? It is how do we bring people together so they have that moment, and that moment, it vibrates within them in a way that makes them think about, again, I keep going back to hospitable and non-hospitable, and I know Camilla probably knows exactly where that comes from, and I can't remember. But I think the key is to create experiences that everyone can engage in, and it doesn't alienate them from the experience, right? You don't want people to go to something and like feel like they're being shamed or taught a lesson or being punished, right? We want them to have empathy for people, and then that causes them to rethink their own situatedness. I think it's a difficult thing to do, but I think that's what the opportunity and the wonderfulness of performance and participatory projects.
I think that's really interesting, and I also think that that's so subjective too, because I've been to performances where, you know, I love it and I sit with it. You know, performances that involve pain, right? And I've seen people just get up and leave, right? So I think I'm coming back to, you know, what Eric was saying about, or what he was asking, you know, about your practice and this idea of holding back, right? And what, why does it have to be hospitable, right? I mean, I feel you on the, you know, the having this trust where you're guiding the audience, but I think that right now I'm just and not in a way that's completely alienating, right? But it's like we're afraid of this alienation, right? There's a degree of fear, and I'm just wondering, not that I don't want to engage with that as a conversation in my practice, but what would an inhospitable performance look like, right? And would that still call out to someone? And what would that someone be like? What would they get from it? Right? I think it's an interesting conversation to have. Not that it's an, you know, it excludes the other, because I completely agree with you, Joy. But yeah.
Yes, Maria. I think maybe I framed my question in a like a mysterious way, but I think what I was trying to get at is what happens after you have already alienated someone, right? And they're coming up to you and like, hey, this offended me, right? So I guess my question was like, how do you navigate those conversations that hopefully your art is perpetuating, right? These conversations of let's have these difficult talks. What happens after the fact? All right, I did my job. I made you uncomfortable. Maybe I alienated you. How do we have this talk now without you shutting down? That is something I'm personally interested in, because that's something I'm trying to navigate as I go through my art.
Yeah, and I think that is, you know, the processing of an experience is not linear, or I think temporally the same for everyone, right? So I think that that's difficult to gauge, but that's an interesting proposition still. I love that, right? But in what ways can we engage so that we're still leaving room for that, right? I love that.
So I'm going to push back on that because I get to do that because this is my webinar. Yay! So I like the language here, which is, Rebecca, what you're using, it has to do with alienating and then and sort of shutting things down, right? And then you're wanting to open it up. So you're doing this thing that you're absolutely trying to make a break with others, right? You want to do that because you're saying, this is wrong, this is how I feel, you need to listen to me, you are not seeing what's happening here, which is what is powerful about art. But the question is that if your purpose or your intent is to alienate, then are you really wanting to have discourse after that? Because if once you have gone through an event that you're basically saying you have no fucking clue what this is like and I'm gonna show you, right? I guess to what Maria is saying is that people do have to process that, but I think that you should, if you're for your own practice, you should consider if you want to have that dialogue afterwards. Because if you don't, then you don't even have to deal with that question, right? So if someone's like, I feel like, you're like, well, yeah, that was kind of the point. So I don't think that all art has to like end in some sort of discourse. That's not, it doesn't have a responsibility to do that. But I think it's helpful for artists who are engaged in political work to be very mindful of what their intention is. And in some cases, you don't want anything to happen afterwards, and that's fine.
If I could, oh, I'm sorry, Miranda.
No. Go.
I was just thinking though, I love, Rebecca, I believe it was your example of someone coming up after the show or what have you and saying like, you know, you made me feel attacked or you're wrong, whatever. And then you want to talk to them in a way where they don't shut down. And Maria, your example about the person who leaves that uncomfortable performance. I take both of those people who shut down or leave the performance as saying like, I don't want this experience, right? So I can leave and not have it. But that is an experience, like they're having an experience. And I wonder if that in itself is dialogical between dialogical and dialogue, whatever, between the artist and the person, right? Because even if you never see them again, I think it can be a type of conversation. And like you were describing things as nonlinear, Maria, maybe they never see what you're talking about, but like you've communicated something to each other. So I wonder if maybe expanding what dialogue can be or is might be a kind of interesting. Yeah.
Courtney Francis Fallon, who is putting,
like you could hear me typing. I was like typing up a storm over here.
I see you typing, and Courtney always has something insightful to say. So I want everyone to know that I know Courtney and that I did not just call her out of the blue.
And that these are things that I really work on and struggle with as well, because it is, to tack on to Camilla's point, Camilia's point, is that like walking away is an experience. And sometimes it's fascinating because you don't know what you're leaving that person with. So they might leave the performance unable to tackle that topic at that time, but that doesn't, you're planting the seeds. So that doesn't even mean that somebody has walked away, that they've completely shut out entirely. But what I just tossed in the comments was like bitter medicine. It's like, again, like the hospitable or not hospitable, or the bitter medicine, but palatable. And it's, for me, it's this challenge that like, because my inclination is to be so aggressive. I am so angry about the things, like just to even tack on to like Maria's video, like showed the shoes at Majdanek concentration camp. Like I have a great uncle who died there. Like, and so to see these things happening with children now, it's like I am like fucking ripping my hair out, furious. And so I like lean towards aggressive. problem that I have experienced with my art, and something that I challenge, like I'm challenging myself, is that there are too many people who shut off entirely, and I make art to communicate. And if they don't want, you have to kind of seduce them into the conversation in a way that, like, we're talking about that, like, we take it for granted that we are not going to belittle our work, that we're not going to dumb it down or like lessen it in order to appeal to people. You can't make these things sexy because they're not. But there is something to be said. So I like lean towards humor and satire and other things, but um it's still it's a huge struggle for me, and it's something that I really am challenged with in my work, because I want to like slash tires metaphorically with my work, or like punch people in the stomach for like supporting policies that cause these atrocities. So yeah, it's a huge challenge for me as well. But like it's a matter of trying to find that balance, or um how you pull people in. um it's a huge challenge. And then there are deals with like questions with like consent. I, as an audience member, don't like it when an artist just like fucks with me. I think it's like lazy or boring. So, or not boring, but like, it's a lot. It's a huge challenge, and I think it's an ongoing, everlasting struggle that artists who make work that is socially conscious and more than like for pleasure, meditation on beauty. I think that's like going to be always be the continued struggle. Meanwhile, though, something that is just fucking furious is going to it does like it speaks to the people you already agree with and helps keep that fire burning under them too. So it's all of it. But yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's great. It could go on forever.
This call, actually, Zoom ends at 2:30, and it won't let me edit it while I'm in it. I did not know Zoom did that. So I put in the chat another Zoom link. If some of you want to hop on that, I'll open it up. If you don't, that's fine too. I just don't want to, this is a great conversation, so I don't want to close it if we don't, if y'all are still into it. So I'm gonna, does everyone see the link in the chat?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, so I'm gonna close this out and open that up. So for those of you who I will see in just a moment, that's great. For those of you who I don't, thank you so much for like staying and hanging out and talking. It's been really interesting and yeah, nourishing for me. So thank you so much.